how would you describe what cryptocurrency is to someone?
It's a public blockchain that has a native token on it that allows me, if I own Bitcoin, I can transact on this public blockchain, or I can put something on it.
Where normally people have a clearinghouse through a bank,
right?
Which is private. The banks are controlling that, and this is now public where you can see the blockchain.
Yeah, and that's really the main innovation here, is that we can see what's going on.
Money can be complicated. Let a nerd help you. We're here to demystify the complex nature of money by getting you answers from financial nerds and whiz kids. Welcome to Ask the Money Nerds, a weekly segment of the Wealth Labs podcast where we answer your most pressing money questions. Cryptocurrency, blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, you name it. We just hear about this stuff all the time, and it had a meteoric rise when there was all the guilt and shaming of how could you not be in this back in the day. And we saw it go up, we saw it come down, and it's come back up. So is it here to stay? What is it? What things should you be looking at? And it's cryptocurrency. So currency is really like exchange. I mean, currency could be, we have speaker wire, right? And then current can flow through that. So how do we exchange with one another? That's through currency. And we've gone from everything from bartering. Hey, I got 6 chickens. Can I have that pig? To, then we went into, actually probably like a store where you could kind of barter a little bit better. Then eventually we came up with these paper, and then you had little dead presidents on it. And no, I'm not talking about Biden in 2021. I'm talking about and Benjamin Franklin wasn't really a president either. That one got you, huh? I mean, he just looks a little old. That's all I'm saying. And now we've got this whole thing where you've got credit cards. Remember checks? How stupid, checks just feel stupid. Like you write on this piece of paper.
They do feel old school, but they're so fun to write.
Really? I think
not now, but when you were younger, you're like, oh, I can't wait to write my own check.
How about Venmo? Like you have social media, like, here's what I'm spending my money on. Like for me, it just makes me want to write the most ridiculous things every time I pay someone.
I know.
But what we're really talking about here is cryptocurrency. We're talking about blockchain. We're talking about different methodologies there. And, one time I had Logan Sunday in my life, and he goes, all right, here's what it is. I'm like, all right, let's go ahead and do this. And I didn't do the transaction, which it would be worth a lot more, Stolba. It really was a little bit of a scarcity that I faced when I didn't decide to do it. Actually, I just kept having problems setting up the account, and then just finally like, whatever. And then I just waited till it got really expensive. And then I was like, oh, this is a good time to buy. That was great. But Logan actually came and spoke at one of our events.
Yes.
And people just did so well listening to his advice. And, so we stay in touch. And I'm like, hey, I'd love to personally ask questions of some transactions I want to do in this world. And would love for him to talk about some of his story. And what would you like to hear?
Oh, I figured we could start with the basics, for people who are new to crypto. We can lay out the fundamentals, and then we can get into, deeper conversation around cryptocurrency. But it's one of those things, like I was telling you before we started recording, it seems so simple to understand, and it seems so complex at the same time. And so I feel like there are a lot of nuances. There's coins coming out all of the time. How do you know which one's trustworthy? How do you begin to invest in it? So there's lots around it. And I think your story at the beginning, Garrett, brought up a good point of I feel, even for myself, but there's a lot of FOMO around it, like the fear of missing out on this opportunity that's going to change my life and make me financially free, and then I'll be able to have everything that I want in my life. And I remember if I would have got in early when someone had talked to me about it.
It was real early when you first heard about it,
It
right?
was so early.
How much was Bitcoin selling for at the time?
Dollars,
and you would have you would have had to go buy it in a seedy parking lot somewhere, I think, at that time. I say that because I know Logan's done that.
I've done that before, yeah.
So it's just I think about if I would have gotten in so much earlier, I could be sitting in so much, not cash, but in currency. I'd be sitting in so much currency right now.
It's funny. I actually remember talking with Garrett about it, and I always told myself the day that Garrett buys it is probably the day that I'm going to want to sell it, because the way that he kept putting it off and putting it off, I'm just like, when he finally pulls the trigger, I think it's going to be about the top, and it almost was. So congratulations. No.
I'm ahead.
You just hold on to it long enough, it'll come
one
back.
day.
That's what everyone wants to tell themselves, right?
Right. So talk about when you first bought. Was Bitcoin your first purchase?
Bitcoin was my first purchase, but it's funny when I first heard about Bitcoin. I don't think it was $1 when I first heard about it, but I remember I was sitting in the back of a truck, and I was listening to something, but then I saw on the news, or I heard on the news, it was during the Cyprus stuff, like when
when they just pulled money out of their accounts.
Exactly, when they were doing these bail-ins, right? And so all of a sudden on the news, they're talking about this cryptocurrency had shot up in value because of the Cyprus event, supposedly. And I kept thinking to myself, well, I know for sure that these news organizations are owned by private corporations, right? And why in the world would these private corporations be talking about something that's the equivalent of a penny stock, right? You know, penny stocks shoot up in value all the time and nobody cares, right? So I kept telling myself, oh, something's going on here. Somebody's trying to pump their bags, is what I like to say. Someone had a bag of Bitcoins and they wanted
let's create this attention and spike this up. Happens a lot with gold and silver.
Oh, yeah.
A lot with gold and silver, yeah.
So in order to sell, I got to find some buyers, right? So and that's really kind of what sparked my interest in it. And so I was just like, you know what, I'm going to look into this Bitcoin. And I found the only way I could buy it is I had to wire money to China. No, MoneyGram.
MoneyGram.
You know, what's that red phone thing? Or I don't know, it was something. I had to go to Walmart and send, it was $36 at the time, and I had to go to Walmart and MoneyGram the money to China.
I had no idea.
Walmart, love it.
Walmart. And, you know, and I didn't do it. And it was $36 at the time, and it was like, nah, that's just weird, you know, and I kind of forgot about it. But eventually Coinbase kind of came around and made it a little bit easier, made you feel a little bit better, and I finally started getting into it at that time. But don't, the fact that, again, I don't think it was accidentally introduced to the world in such a way.
Right.
I think somebody created the technology and they wanted to introduce it to the world. And since then, there's been hundreds and thousands of different projects and coins. I think somebody wanted this to happen. Whether you believe in conspiracy theories or not, I don't know. But it was, I think somebody wanted it to happen and wanted to unload their bags, and they've done very well, I'm sure. On
right.
It, so.
And so are you in Bitcoin now?
I am, I would say I am in cryptocurrency.
Right, but that's not the one that you're...
But it doesn't matter, honestly, right now, which one you hold. So as far as price goes, I think it's important to understand that, like, I mean, if you own Bitcoin now, you pretty much own everything else. I mean, if I own XRP, if I own Ether, I mean, they all pretty much follow each other. Every once in a while, they'll separate in price, and one will go without the others following, but they all tend to divert right back to kind of what it was. So I don't know that there's any... nothing sticking out as a clear winner. They all just follow each other.
And how would you describe what cryptocurrency is to someone?
It's a public blockchain that has a native token on it that allows me, if I own Bitcoin, I can transact on this public blockchain, or I can put something on it.
Where normally people have a clearinghouse through a bank,
right?
Which is private. The banks are controlling that, and this is now public where you can see the blockchain.
Yeah, and that's really the main innovation here, is that we can see what's going on, right? So we can't, you know, if the government says they're going to do something, there's no public representation or way for us to see that.
Like how much did they put on a computer screen today?
Right.
Or not?
Or how much, was it moved here, and who got it, who received it?
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, I think a lot of people look at Bitcoin and public blockchains as a way to like hide or to step out of the system, when really, I think in reality, it's going to end up being that something that brings more honesty
and accountability
to the world.
But initially, it's been really good for drug dealers and other criminals, right?
Yeah, because people don't understand it, right? And there are projects that are created for that purpose, and I think they're actually going to get crushed by regulation. And
how's it going to impact, like, if China has a coin versus the U.S. government wants to do digital wallets, I'm saying. Like, what do you see with all of that?
If China has a coin, or, I mean, some type of, like, government coin of some kind.
And what's this deal with, I mean, how much are you reading about digital wallets that could be, given out, and, this whole movement of don't use cash? Like, remember it was like only cash. Now we're going to go to places like don't use your cash, like it's a totally different thing.
Well, it's like with COVID, I mean, why waste a good opportunity to get rid of cash, right? So, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to push for digital and, and stable coins, which I think are growing exponentially.
And let's talk about that. I'm very interested in stable coins. So let's talk about those.
Yeah. Well, stable coins is basically, so if we had, let's say you had some dollars and you set those dollars aside, and then you create a digital token that represents ownership in those dollars. Okay. So if you own this token, you can redeem it at any time for those dollars. Okay, so it's kind of like the old goldsmith thing, right? You know,
Like a gold standard.
yeah. So it's like a dollar standard.
Right.
So are you saying everybody could have their own coin?
Technically, everybody could. I mean, with the technology, you can tokenize anything, and that's the direction that we're going. We'll probably end up seeing tokenized real estate, tokenized everything.
Well, let's think about this. Like, how many dollars actually exist in print versus how many dollars actually exist in computer screen?
It's about 3% cash,
Right.
97% digital.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, so there's things you have to understand with that, like fractionalized banking, that you can have
Absolutely.
the same dollar loaned out multiple times. It has a minimum reserve requirement, but then under that, it can just keep being lent because it keeps going through the system. So if Logan gets a loan, he then puts that money in the bank to, and then that money gets lent again if I borrow it, and then I'm going to use the bank, right? And then you're going to, and they just have to have a certain amount on reserve. So that's why we have, one of the reasons why we have way more money in circulation,
Way more
and
debt.
debt than we actually have cash. But the other thing is, how much are they actually printing? Because how do you add 3 trillion to an economy in paper? That's not, you can't print like to count from 1 to a trillion at 1 second per number takes like 500,000 years. So think about that. How are you going to print that amount of money? It's not printed.
Right.
It's just
It can't be.
added
Yeah.
to screens.
Right.
Right.
Well, here's something that's really unique and cool about stablecoins. So I think everyone kind of is focusing on the things that go up in value because really everyone's
Which is speculation. I mean, let's
Everyone's
face
a
it.
gambler.
Right?
Come on, let's face it, you're
it's
gambling.
it's the 49ers, going out there to get gold, and 1 in 12 people did okay, and 11 out of 12 either died or didn't get anything. And I think that this is the new gold rush, and so people are
Absolutely.
they got, everybody's going there, they go put their money in it and they get super excited about it, but they don't know enough about it, they can't really explain it, and that's why I didn't do it the first time around. And like, look, I have a business that I make money with and that I enjoy, and so did I have FOMO? You bet. It infiltrated my dreams. It tried to tear my joy away from me. I fought it off, and I found happiness again,
You came to the other side. That's good.
But stablecoin is something that you and I have been talking about. That's why I wanted you to come on and
Yeah.
really describe this.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as I think what really allows, what really sets a stablecoin apart. I mean, you brought up fractional reserve banking,
Right.
right? We know that the banks don't have $1 for every dollar that they say they have.
I think anyone should
Right.
just go ask to get all the money they have in the bank out. And if it's over a certain amount, there's no chance you're going to get that. They don't even have that amount at the bank. They even have, like, some banks is like you can take out $3,000 of cash and that's their cap
Yeah, they want
per
to know
day.
why. What's going on?
And if you take more than a certain amount, they actually have you fill out forms. Because I had these clients that they were having an event, and I said, you should consider with your event, because I was going to guest speak at this event, and they teach people how to speak, and they teach people how to understand body language and all this. And I said, just put a case of $100,000 out in the lobby of the event of actual money, and watch people's body language as they walk by it, and as they see what happens. And when they went to get that money out, they had to go multiple times. They had to fill out forms. It was like, hey, you're now on a watch list. Congratulations, because you wanted your own cash.
My own money. Thank you.
There are multiple different stablecoins. Some are more well regulated than others, and maybe you would trust some more than others.
What do you like more?
I personally like USD coin. They are audited monthly, and it is you can see that. They put that out. You can see that, and they actually do have a lot of people that are high up that have good connections. I mean, there's some Goldman Sachs connections, so usually they they're not going to let bad things happen unless they make a lot of money on it. So USD
Right.
coin.
Well, you
Is
know
that a good thing?
I mean, Goldman Sachs is basically like saying the living devil, but but the thing is, they do own a lot of what's going on in this world.
Right. So I
They are
guess is
highly
that a
connected.
good thing for them to be involved? Because I guess in my mind, when I'm thinking, I don't know much about stablecoin, and the little that I know about cryptocurrency is, like you said earlier, it's like this is supposed to be a way to get out of the traditional system, kind of be not necessarily anti-government, but like let's develop a new system that operates differently than the system that we have that is
Well,
kind of
and let's be
failing
clear,
people.
like the Federal Reserve isn't government,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So it makes us feel like it's government, but it's actually central banking, which is privatized,
right.
which is insane.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I mean, trusting the government
I think
doesn't
the
seem
real
like
innovation is going to come from the public being able to see what's going on. I don't think we're really going to be able to step out and just kind of in the shadows do whatever we want. I think that's just not going to be allowed, and that may not be a world that we want to live in.
Right. Absolutely.
But to bring more trust and honesty to the system, and more trust in government, if they did things more visibly, and we could see that publicly, and we know that what they're doing with the cash is what they're really doing with the cash, that's going to be the true innovation here.
Yeah, because the whole purpose behind transparency is accountability. When there's transparency, you can hold people accountable to living ethically and making, good decisions for other people in the world. You can have
consequences, essentially.
And consequences, right. Yeah. So I guess for me, one question that I have, and some of our viewers might have, is with all of this innovation, I don't know, first of all, let me go back. Will you do a quick summary between stablecoin and crypto? Just like a quick overview.
Okay. So we're going to have, let's use Ethereum, for example.
Okay.
So it's a public blockchain. Ethereum is the native token that people can move around, and they need it in order to transact on the Ethereum blockchain.
Yeah.
Okay. But on that same chain, I can create a separate token like USDC, which is actually run on the Ethereum blockchain. Okay. And so I actually need Ether to move my USDC around, but it's just a tiny amount. Okay. So it's kind of like, so I have the internet and I can build on the internet. I have Ethereum and I can build on Ethereum, and then I can have this token. Okay. So I can.
It's like a lot of technology companies, even social media, like Twitter or another company might have the same bones that they're working with for that to operate, but it looks like it's Twitter, but they're using like a certain software program that they then customize, but it's the basic bones or rails that something would be created on.
Yeah.
But maybe that, this is not true, but maybe Instagram's using the same thing, or maybe another company's using the same thing. Just kind of like we have a CRM, right, for customer relations. And so other companies might have that CRM, but you can build different plugins. You could build, like, it's still our company that they're seeing the email from. So it's kind of the underlying technology that supports the utilization. Now, if I'm wrong on any of that, call me out.
No, that's right. Yeah. So I think that's why eventually we're going to see all kinds of things built on top of blockchains.
So Allcoin is basically blockchain, right? Is using blockchain or one type of version of it for it to use, for it to transact, or for it to be held.
Yeah. So we're gonna have a blockchain, and then we're gonna have what we need in order to transact on that blockchain.
Ethereum.
And then we can create whatever we can build all kinds of stuff on top of it. So
it's like a DBA. Have you ever heard of a DBA? So you have like a company. You could have like Wealth Labs as a company. We could have a DBA called Chief of Staff Stolba Inc. Right? And it's like under the name says Chief of Staff Stolba, but it's actually the underlying company's Wealth Labs. Yeah. So if you watch any movie, you'll see at the very beginning, it'll say like, Century 21 Fox, and it might say a News Corp company or something like that. And so it's, it's all working together.
It's almost like the example that comes to mind as you're sharing that is when sometimes you buy a ticket and you think you're flying Delta, but it's through like another airline that's providing the service. It's kind of similar. Another example. Yeah.
So we've given a bunch of different examples that either confused or clarified. We'll have to see. Yeah.
So essentially you need to have a crypto coin or like a coin in order to have stable coin. You need both. You can't have one or the other.
Yeah, they work together. And you're going to need, you don't have, so if I go out and I buy USDC, the stable coin, I don't have to own Ethereum to transact in that, even though it's on the Ethereum blockchain. They'll just take a fee in stablecoin when I send that. So if I send $1,000 to Garrett in USDC, they might take 15 cents in a fee for doing that transaction.
Sweet. So it's kind of like a wire.
Yeah.
But a lot cheaper.
I think these stable coins are really going to end up being the way that you want money to be now, right? And I think eventually that everyone's just going to hold a stable coin of some kind and probably not even realize that they have one.
I saw this talk long ago, and if I would have acted again there, it was under $10 at the time for Bitcoin.
Okay.
Are you getting FOMO?
No, I was
mad at himself.
I was cool with that one. I was a little bit more agitated myself with the one with Logan. But the guy that gave the presentation on it, he goes, look, there's 9 properties of money. He says, but when you're using blockchain and crypto, there's 11. It's easier. it's better. And I was like, he made a very compelling argument.
Right.
I can't tell you what those 2 extra things were, but maybe Logan can. But it was like, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, let's talk about some of the major advantages that I see. I mean, when you first hear about stablecoins, I mean, everyone's all into the crypto part of it, the Bitcoin, the Ethereum. They want to buy it because it's going to go up in value, right? And then you might turn around and ask yourself, why would I own a stablecoin? What's the point of that? Right? What's the point of that? Well, I see a couple advantages to holding stablecoins. Number one, I see it as, a way that I can hold my money in a way that will allow me to avoid, well, really as a hedge. If there's ever any type of liquidity issues within a banking system, I have the ability to transact in dollars still, okay? And I'm holding a digital token that's fully reserved and audited monthly, okay?
Seems like a good thing.
So let's say I keep 6 months of my reserves in stablecoins, right? And then we have banking issues. Everyone's waiting for FDIC to step in and save the day, right? Meanwhile, I can transact still. I can use my dollar-denominated stablecoins and jump on opportunities, right? I can pay my bills still. I can send money to China. I can pay people over there. I mean, there's true value in having a digital form of my dollars because it's so easy to move, okay? So I think for people that have cash, and another way of hedging and protecting yourself is actually holding a form of stablecoin.
Want to continue the path to be a better investor? Make sure that you're not losing money and taking too much risk? Well, click here and learn about strengths vesting.